everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Why You Worried About It. I'm Lindsay Bush. I'm HR Director with Country Crossroads Counseling, and I'm joined with two beautiful ladies today, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hey everybody, it's Susie Arbo. I'm a licensed professional counselor. Happy to be on this journey, all of us actually.
And I'm Mandy Green, and I'm a licensed professional counselor here with Country Crossroads Counseling.
Awesome, you guys. So we are so excited to have Mandy join us again. So a lot of you guys probably remember her. She talked about the love languages and has been on here a couple times just sharing really good things. And so we're happy to have her back. Mandy is a director with us of our school-based program. She's a location leader. She wears a lot of hats in the company, and she has just a wealth of information from mental health to relationships to trauma to you name it. And I just watched her do a wonderful webinar online. And so I asked her, I said, can you hop on the show and share some of what you just shared about like our past and kind of how that affects us, good or bad, and what we can do about it. And I just feel like some of us that maybe aren't trained in the therapy world don't even realize how our past affects us. We kind of just roll through life and we just do the best we can. But when we can really learn a lot about it, it can make all the difference in the world. So, Mandy, you want to share a little bit about the ACEs is what it's called, like what it is, and
Yeah. So our ACEs is something that it was developed years and years and years ago. But what it's looking at is it's a quiz, and what it refers to is our traumatic or stressful events experienced before the age of 18. And this can include abuse, whether physical or emotional or sexual. It includes neglect and household dysfunction. Maybe there was a parent divorce or substance abuse or a mental illness or an incarceration of a parent. And what this ACE score does is it takes a look at how traumatic this was for a person and how it impacts them the rest of their lives. And what we know about the ACE scores is that it does cause a lot of issues for people with their mental health, increased risk of depression, anxiety, PTSD, our relationships. It impacts so many different things in life.
yeah, it does. And it's like a questionnaire that you can take. You can actually pull it up online, and there's lots of different, ways that you can access it, but you just Google it. It's called ACEs, ACES, and you can take the little questionnaire and kind of see where you're at. And it's very, very helpful to know.
I'm super excited. So I'm everybody knows I'm not a clinician. So Mandy and Susie are definitely way more versed in this. So I'm learning right along with you guys as you're listening today. And I plan to definitely get on there and print this off because I find it super interesting to kind of tie in, why do you react the way you do and what happened in your past and how can you overcome it and get from it. And I know I work every day I always joke of like, I have things that I know kind of run in my family and different stuff that I work hard to try to not do. So I'm super interested to do this. So I'm super excited that Mandy's sharing it with us today.
Yeah. It's definitely, and that's something we were talking about. It affects, everything from our brain makeup as children, because again, you're looking at the age before 18. So a lot of our brains, our development can be changed. Our prefrontal cortex and our amygdala and our hippocampus, all of these things that affect our emotion regulation, our decision making, our memory, and interpretation of threats. We can become very hyper vigilant and prone to seeing danger or negativity. And maybe it's not even there, but because of our past traumas or these different things that affected us as a child can make these things there for us.
Yeah. And Susie, is this like what you've taught us before or what we've kind of spoke on a little bit before about your neurotransmitters and kind of retraining them? That's what this is. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. So there's hope for us.
Oh my gosh. But one of my favorite things in the world to talk about is neuroplasticity. And it's just how our brain is wired. But then the more you work to change that wiring and to restructure it, the little coping skills that you do every single day, the thought stopping we've talked about on the show a lot, all those little things actually rewire your brain to help you be more positive, more resilient, happier, healthier, and it's things that we can do, which is so cool. And you can see the scans of the brain actually throughout like the therapeutic process, and when people practice mindfulness and practice all these things, and it's just so neat that we can do that with our brain. One thing that I always love to use is kind of like this little analogy of, if you look at like this kind of this fork in the road and like let's say like this main road that you're going down is like how you were raised, right? And maybe there was like hard things happen. Maybe there was abuse. Maybe like you talked about incarceration, Mandy, like maybe a parent or a loved one was incarcerated. Maybe you had a death of a loved one. Maybe, all sorts of things happen to you, right? And they kind of are going down this path. And when you get to be an adult, and you get to be 18, right? And or whatever your adulthood starts, you get the choice of kind of what path you take from there. And there's a big fork in the road, and some people choose to live down that same path and they don't make any changes. They don't do the therapeutic work. They maybe don't believe in medications or things that could help their lives be better to balance out some of those chemicals in their brain, and so they continue on those same cycles that they grew up in, right? And the trauma and the poverty or the education or whatever it is, lack of, and that's kind of their life. We all seen that before. And then we've got this other idea, this other kind of mindset that maybe you realize that this isn't healthy. You get out into the real world and you see this dysfunction, like, hey, this isn't how other people live, this isn't how other people do things. So you take that other fork and you know what, you start learning. You start maybe reading books, you start doing podcasts, you go to therapy and you're like, wow, all this past trauma like affects like every part of my life, from my relationships to my job to my finances, everything. And it doesn't have to do that, right? You can learn these skills, you can rewire the brain, and you can literally overcome it just by having that information to know and to want to get better. And Mandy and Lindsay, you both have had an interesting life, you know what I mean, that you guys, and you look at all the things that you went through and just those adversities, you've used them as setups for living like such an amazing life now. You look at you guys are positive, you are helpers, you have good relationships, you're making an impact and a difference in this world. And that was your choice. You could have went the other path, and you chose. Sorry, I got on my little soapbox there, guys.
No, that's absolutely true. And that's what I was talking about on the training that I just did is that um, my ACE score right off the bat is a 6. The highest is a 10. But depending how I look at that, and I kind of shared this, there are 3 questions on there that depending what lens I'm looking at, it could easily be a 9. My score could easily have been a 9, depending on how I look at that. And before I was a therapist, maybe I would have looked at that and said, yes, I was a 9. But growing and changing in that, I definitely have. And that's a good point to bring up is that resilience. There's actually a resilience questionnaire as well that was developed off of the ACE and all the research and off of all the studies. And it talks about like, even though things were bad in your house, did you feel that your mother loved you or your father loved you or you had somebody else that cared for you and loved you? Lindsay, I know you and I both had our grandparents. That was our saving grace. And that was the person that was our people. And that's who showed us that love. So we still felt that love, which raises that resilience score. Or maybe it's the teacher who knew you and understood you or cared for you, or your neighbor that kind of took you under their wing and made sure you were taken care of. All of those resilience scores can get you out of that trauma too and help you make those healthy choices. And I think that's very important, Susie, to know that we all have the choice. Um, to make those changes. And it is hard. And I talked on it about how everybody who knows Susie knows she's so positive and it's just natural for her to be positive. But for me, it's a struggle. And Susie and I are great for each other. We really balance each other out. We've talked about this many of times. I need her positivity. But it's a struggle. And before I started taking a bigger step back and looking at my childhood versus her childhood or experiences or even comparing mine and Lindsay, whoever, until you start looking at those and making those choices of, okay, it may take me a little bit of work to do this, and that's okay. I got to keep working at it every single day.
I think that's so cool. I absolutely love something you just said, and you might not, I don't know if anybody else listening to this caught it, but when you said that you went from if before you knew or before you started working on yourself, you were at a 9. And now when you take the same questionnaire, you're at a 6. Like that to me is it, you're healing. You're healing yourself just in the work that you're doing. Like, and that's huge because you could still sit around and say, oh, my life was terrible or all these things, but even you have recognized that no, actually, those things aren't so bad now, where
Right.
you're at in your life. And I think that is super cool to hear like your actual ACE score changed
Mhm.
because of the work you're doing with yourself. So that to me is motivational. I mean, it because sometimes people, I think people feel stuck. Like they feel like they got dealt a hand of cards and that's all they have, and that is true, guys, but you get a choice in how you want to play them. Like, yeah, you got that hand, but that doesn't mean life is over or you should be wallowing in pity and all the things. Like, making the choice, the cognizant choice to do better every day is, I mean, it is hard sometimes, like obviously, but I mean that to me, I love hearing that you've shown your own self growth even through what you're teaching us today. So I think that thank you for sharing that because that really hit with me.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that on this show that we've always really tried to do is to be pretty real and vulnerable. We're genuine humans. We're human too. We go to sleep and we wake up and we've got, some of the thoughts that come in and kind of consume us, and we've got to do our own work to kind of redo that. Yesterday was a really challenging day for me personally, and I did a million of my own little exercises to get to a positive spot to think. We have this little thing that we always call in the company, if we've got problems, we call them gifts because they're wonderful learning opportunities and we always grow from them. We always get better. And you know what? With the right mindset, you're going to make it to the other side and you're going to look out and you're going to, you know what I mean, kind of see like, oh gosh, okay, now I see why that happened because it's just setting me up for the next best thing in the future. And I think if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking, wow, I wonder what my ACEs score is, and I wonder, I had some trauma growing up. We always like to do a call to action on the show. We encourage you. Maybe we can put a link on here. Bree, our wonderful host, always helps us out with our podcast. We're so grateful for her. But maybe we can put some kind of link or some kind of resource for people so that they can take the quiz online and kind of know, and then figure out what that score is. And then we always want to say, what can you do about it? What can you do to improve the quality of your life? And there's so many things out there. We teach coping skills all the time on this podcast, but there's therapy. If you're not into therapy, we always promote other things too. Order a workbook on Amazon. Talk to a good friend or a positive person in your life. That talking about what's bothering us is one of the best ways that we can do. Say prayers if you believe in God, or spiritual things like journal. There's a million different little things that can help improve, your mood, and do your own work. Like, life is too short to go around miserable, sad, stuck in the past. Life is too short. So that's my 2 cents, guys.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's all about your mindset. If you want to do better and you're actively trying, you will. And it gets easier. It totally gets easier. All of those things that seem hard at first or awkward or uncomfortable. There's a million different coping skills, and Susie does amazing about showing those to us and helping us. But maybe one is not your cup of tea. That doesn't mean stop. Try something else. Like, there's so many different things out there that really do help. And once you find that one thing, put it in your tool belt, like Susie says, and be ready to use it because it truly makes a difference whenever you have your mind more logical and more easy and not always living up here on a 10 or ready to like explode. Life is just easier. It seems easier, I guess, or maybe we just navigate it better.
Absolutely. And I think the first step of those coping skills is you have to be real for yourself. You have to recognize that you're in that mindset and you have to be honest with yourself because that's the first step is that if you don't recognize you're being like this or that this is a problem for you, then you're not going to change. So you have to really step back and use that mindfulness and pay attention to yourself and pay attention to your body and what's going on with you and your thoughts because um if you can't be honest and if you can't recognize it, then you're not going to make that change. So absolutely. And I like you guys said, there's millions probably of coping skills you can use or something that works for you. But be honest with yourself is step number one. Recognize that this is a problem for you.
Yeah.
Yep, I speak a lot on emotional intelligence, and one of the things that one of the first steps of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. You know what I mean? Just knowing, recognizing how you're feeling, how you're doing. And if you're out there, because I have clients, whatnot, that we work on this, that everybody else is always the problem. You know what I mean? Like every single person there, like this person upsets me, this person upsets me, whatever. And then we get to a spot where we're like figuring out, well, maybe it's not everybody else. Right? Maybe it's within you that your body and your mind and your anger and all that is telling you that this is something internal within you. And then let's work on that. And that's a beautiful life-changing moment in a therapy session when somebody recognizing, wow, I can see that I'm reacting and this is why this person isn't out to offend me. Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't get up any day and be like, man, who can I piss off today? I mean, who can I upset today? Like that's never my thing, but like we do upset people and we don't mean to, and stuff. And so just kind of thinking about that. And then if you're listening to, and maybe you've got a lot of like deep trauma and really, really hard things, and you might think, well, this is good and all, but nothing can touch that. I'm gonna say, I got trained in EMDR therapy years ago, and that has just been a game changer, guys. I've worked with some really, really hard, traumatic cases of people just living some horrific things, and EMDR has changed the course of their life because it doesn't take away what happened from you, like to what happened to you. What it does is it takes out the intense feelings. So it's almost like you look at it like it's facts on a page, right? Like, okay, I'm looking at this is my life, whatever, but I don't have the sadness, the grief, the whatever it is, like this terrible things happen, but I can move on and I can move forward, and I've got the skills to do that. And so EMDR at Country Crossroads Counseling, we've got many therapists now that do it. Other places do it. You can do versions of it kind of online, but I highly recommend you need to be in the comfort of a trained therapist in that environment. But like I'm just telling you, there's options, there's things that you can do. So well, guys, this has been a super helpful thing. And Lindsay, I'm glad that we got to teach you today about the
I
ACEs and how
know.
they can impact us. So, and I feel like even like with you, like you're such a positive ray of light. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you've done so much of your own positive, awesome work that it's cool. But I think it'll be fun for you to take that test.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm definitely going to look it up, and I will report back, Mandy.
Yes, I'm very interested to see.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for listening today. We absolutely love having guests. Mandy, thank you so much for being here again. She's a wealth of knowledge, guys. So if you can ever catch her out, tell her how much you love listening to her, and please let us know if you ever want to be on the show. We love having guests. I love to learn. So this was excellent for me today. But we want to know what you guys want to learn about. So please let us know too. Do you know somebody that you'd love to see on the show, or is there a topic you want me and Susie to dive into? We'd love to know. You can always follow us on Facebook. It's Country Crossroads Counseling, and then our website, countrycrossroadscounseling.com. We just appreciate you guys so much, and we can't wait to see you all soon.